Hi guys, and welcome to today's task. For today's task, I have a job that I've kind of been putting off, is replacing these brake pads. Now I know this isn't a normal today's task. Yeah, that's correct. I think that's right. Most of my stuff is going to be house stuff, but a lot of it is DIY stuff that you can do on your own to save you a few bucks. And sometimes they're automotive, sometimes they're recreational. Most of the time they are going to be household, and that project is up and coming. But for today, I've got to get my wife's car as safe as possible. And on a vehicle, the number one tool you will use is your brakes. And if they're not working properly, obviously, you run into some trouble. So her brakes have actually started to squeal because of the security strip that's built into brake pads. There's a little wire that when they get down so far, it will actually start to constantly squeal so that you know it's time to replace these brake pads. Fun fact, your rear pads aren't used near as much for stopping your vehicle. It's actually your front wheels. So on a typical car, the front brakes take 80% of the stopping power and the rear brakes take about 20. Now I know some models that changes a little bit, but typically that's about what it is. So after 70,000 miles on this Suburban, I finally have to replace these brakes, although I've already replaced those brakes almost twice. A few things you want to do first is 1, hit the emergency brake. Make sure this vehicle is not going anywhere. 2, you want to chock the wheels of the opposite end of the vehicle you're working on. We're working on the rear axle, so we want to chock the tires on the front axle. And 3, before you start jacking this tire up, it's easiest to break these lug nuts loose right now while it's on the ground and has as much back tension on it as possible. Now they're all broken loose, let's jack the tire up. And when it comes to storing them, I like to set them face down if I can. That way they don't roll around. This way you don't have any of those oh fudge moments. Now some people will just wheel this away and get rid of it for the time being. I don't like to do that. Maybe I'm a little paranoid, but I like to lay it down, slide it underneath my vehicle so that in the chance that that jack fails, this will only come down on this rim. These are the two pieces that make up our brake calipers. This actually has the piston built into it, and this holds our pads in place so that our caliper can squeeze it around the rotor. Now, all of that's anatomy of the vehicle you probably don't give a crap about. You just want to get your brakes changed to save a few bucks. Next step, we want to undo this bolt, and there's an identical bolt on the bottom. We really need to be careful of this line. If we puncture or hurt this line in any way, our brakes will start to bleed. We will get air in the lines. We will actually have to repair it and then re-bleed the lines. And the beauty of disc brakes, which is what most vehicles are nowadays, you don't have to bleed the lines like you used to. I personally do not know how to bleed lines very well. I'm not good at it. So disc brakes are something I can change. Regular drum brakes, I can't. Now to take this carriage part off, we have 2 bolts here as well. Now these bolts are going to be extremely hard to get undone. They're very, very big bolts, and they're not meant to come undone very often and very easily, so you're gonna use some force on those. And now we are left with our original brake pads, and they slip out super easy. Pop them over and down, and that one comes out. Look how worn down that guy is. Now I'm gonna reuse this. This is called brake hardware. We just need to clean it up a little bit. So I use brake cleaner and a steel bristle brush, and it cleans them up really, really well. One thing we do wanna check for is the flux and movability of our pins. These have to slide in and out to allow our brakes to engage and disengage. And if you take a look at these pads, this one's brand new, this one's old. You can obviously tell this one has a lot of wear on it. This one has very little left. This pad is so worn that it's starting to rub on this piece right there. That's just a warning signal to tell you your pads are getting low, and when you start hearing that, go get them replaced, or do it yourself. Putting the pads in is very simple. You set in the side that has this metal tab first. You go right there, and then slide the other side in, and then bring them back out just a little bit. You have to make room for the brake caliper to fit in there. Now, you do need to remember the one with the smooth back goes on the inside, the same side as all these bolts. The one with the rough back goes on the outside. So set it in place and then slide right in. And these ones actually have little bitty lock tabs right there that allow it to stay input and place where I need it to be. So now we are ready to put our caliper carriage with the pads back on. I'm calling it that. That's my new name for it. Now we do want to torque these back down, and they're about 130, 35 pounds of torque. And if you look at our brake caliper, this piston has been pushed out because of the brakes. That will never fit around. So you actually have to push this back in. But there's a lot of force there, obviously, so you can stop your vehicle. So you can use a clamp and just put it around this and squeeze it back in, and that does work. But I found a tool that is built to slip in between, right there, and it barely fits. And then you just start wrenching it, and it actually pushes that piston back inside. And it does it really evenly, which is nice. And then when you're done, you just release it and it comes right out. Now we've got plenty of room for this to slip over our brake pads. So make sure this hose is nice and straight, no kinks. It's coiled up the way it was supposed to. Sometimes you can get it wrong and have it pinched, so just be very aware of that. And that slips right over top. And with our 2 bolts, we just put them back in again. Now that we have all of our brake put back together, everything's tightened and torqued to where it needs to be, we are ready to put this tire back on. But since it's off, I'm going to take advantage of the accessibility that you typically don't have to do my dishes. This inside area of any tire or rim is called a dish. And the difference between a excellent looking wheel detail and a mediocre looking wheel detail is if the dishes are done. And it's so easy to get to them right now, so it's just a good time to clean them real quick and then put a small coat of wax on them so that they're at least gonna kind of keep the dirt off a little bit longer. Normally you're sticking your hand in between the spokes and it's just a Bearcat. So right now you can just wipe these down real quick and easy, get most of the dirt off of. I would flip that rag and do it again. You can feel a lot of rocks like to bond onto that too. I don't know why they do, but they just do. So a little bit of a top coat is last. This is kind of a wax slash ceramic coating that just keeps this cleaner longer. And there you go. That dish is gonna look a lot better as we begin our summertime and springtime journeys. Another good opportunity right now is to clean out these little dishes that are almost impossible to get with the lug nuts in. And last but not least, actually clean the lug nuts themselves. These are chrome lug nuts. They're supposed to look shiny, make them shine. So now with all of our lug nuts finger tight, we're gonna start tightening them down and solidifying them in place. But remember, don't do a circular pattern. You actually wanna do a star pattern and follow it all the way across. Now with our tire resting on its own weight, I want to torque these one more time, and we are torquing these to 135 pounds of pressure. And this tire is completely done. But I still have one more step of removing all of the wheel chocks that I put in place. So you're gonna come back into your car and push this brake pedal. It'll almost go to the floor the first time. Or maybe it won't. But you need to pump it a few times just to guarantee that you don't have any gaps or space in your brakes. You guys, I hope you enjoyed today's task on how to change your brake pads. Your front and rear, if they're disc brakes, will change the exact same. So if you've been on the fence about changing a brake and you just didn't know how, hopefully you've got the tips and tricks on how to do it now. So if you like today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And if you want to make sure you don't miss out on any of our today's tasks, you taskers, 3 Musketaskers. Oh, that's dumb. That's a dumb one. Anyway, if you don't want to miss out on anything, make sure you hit that notification bell and go ahead and comment on the things that you've learned or what you would like to see in future videos. Until then, we'll see you guys next time.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Break time, huh?
Break time. Switch sides. So let's get started with a few things. A few things to do first is working on the rear axle, so we want to chock the opposite wheels of the... Oh, come on. Son of a gun. There we go. And if all else fails, grab a foot and get it to go. Whoop. That is a workout getting those guys off. You're gonna burn your calories today. You dirty rotten scoundrel. Nope, that's backwards, Joel. What are you doing? What are you doing? I feel like I need to be making those faces.